So the next thing we need to do is create a second assembly that contains the rail, the bearing flat, our motors, and our shaft. And I'm going to place in another rail, and then another bearing flat. I'm going to place the motor, the 269 motor, and finally I'm going to place in one of my shafts. Okay, so now I'm going to use the same steps that were performed in the previous video to constrain the bearing flat to the rail, but this time on the opposite side as per our directions. So I'm going to just pause for a second here, and I want to quickly do that. Okay, at this point I have my rail the way I need to, so now it's time to constrain my motor and my shaft. So the first thing to do when you're getting ready to constrain your motor is we're actually going to put our shaft in first to make it a little bit easier to get the motor where it needs to be. So to do that, we're actually going to add a couple features, some work features, to our bearing flat here and to our shaft to get it where we need to. So I'm going to click on my axis button, and then when I zoom in on the end of my shaft, you should see a circular feature here. So click near the edge of that circular feature and it will apply an axis that goes straight down through the center of your shaft. I'm going to do the same thing with the axis button and the central cylinder in my middle bearing flat. So once I have that done, I can use my constraints again. So I'll just do constrain, and I will mate the two axes with each other and apply that. And once that's done, your axle or shaft should slide right along that axis. Okay, so now that's right where it needs to be. So then we can bring our motor over a little bit. Now if we look at our motor, we'll notice that there is a square hole, and then we have a square shaped shaft. So we want to make the shaft line up with this hole. So to do that, we can then use, again, our constraints. We can do face to a face. That'll bring it close to place. And then I'll just do two more faces to get the square shaft lined up perfectly with the hole. So once that's done, I should be able to slide my motor on and off of the shaft, which is good. The final constraint to get our shaft and motor together would be to mate the backside of the axle with the back hole of the motor, like so. So once that's done, when I rotate my motor, the whole shaft will rotate with it. So now the last step here to finish out this rail is to mate and tangent our motor to our rail. So to do that, I'm going to mate this bottom black portion of the motor to the back surface of the rail, a new constraint called the tangent constraint, which a tangent is when a circle and line meet up perfectly. So I'm going to select this cylinder here, the brass cylinder, and I'm then going to select the flat surface of the rail. As you can see, that spun my motor around right into place. Let me try to apply that. And at this stage, nothing should be able to move around. If anything does move, just make sure that you come up here to your rail. See, I have a little push pin here. That means the component is grounded. So if you do not have that, just right click and go down to grounded. Make sure you ground that first part. So at this stage, we have our second rail completed. So then I'm going to just save this one as the motor rail assembly.